Okay, let's get started.
Yeah, but he.
If you haven't signed in, there's a sign up in sheet over there by the camera. If you're not standing in front of the camera, we'll film it and put it on the YouTube channel. This is Steve Sanders. Anything you see in here that looks nice, he did. I'm just his helper. I found the property and called him up. I think it was 2013. I was getting back into real estate. I did it from '86 to 2002, and I had my boys. I wanted to raise them, so I sold everything. And then I thought, what could I do when I get old? I thought, I like doing the rentals, so I got back into it. I went to Steve and I said, hey, you want to throw some money in together and we'll just look for property, and I'll look for it and do advertising and stuff. So we both threw $1,000 in, didn't get anything. I spent another $16,000 sending out postcards and stuff, still didn't get anything. So I don't do postcards anymore. I go knocking on doors. The quote for the month is, triumph is try added to umph. I like that one. Book of the month is The Light Switch by Jack Schaefer. He's an FBI guy, and he talks about how he got Soviet spies and stuff to talk to him, criminals. You know, they're going to go to jail if they tell him anything. So if they don't like him, they're not going to talk to him. And I got a lot out of that book. I read it every once in a while. It'll be a good negotiation book for you.
What's the name of that one?
The Like, L-I-K-E, Switch.
Like.
Yeah. Have you ever read Never Split the Difference?
Yes.
It's a good companion book to that.
Okay.
Because you know you're wanting to do stuff, and it shows you never split the difference, how to work with people and stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy, it's not negotiation, but it's to get the people to like him enough. He taught a class at college, and he went in to prepare like an hour early. And there's two guys sitting in the front row. He said, "What are you guys doing here?" "We're here for your class." And they were new, you know. He said, "Well, why are you here so early?" "Well, Mike told us that he picks up chicks doing this, and we saw him do it, so we want to make sure we get your class." So, Raymond, you got the...
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is Raymond Gomez, and he's our Midland Realtor. So come on up, and he's going to give us our market report.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Lee, for putting this all together for us to have a place, a really nice place to hang out at and tour around. And I've got the numbers for Midland. This is going to be residential numbers as far as sales and whatnot. So as far as total listings in Midland, we've got 1,086 active listings. No, total listings, 668 active listings, 418 under contract. And then we have 250 sold last month, so that puts us at a 4-month inventory. So, I mean, we're right at the breaking point to where, I mean, we're really just a balanced market. And trying to go more into a seller's market, so that should help on the sales side. Average sale price in Midland of $369,000, and we're actually selling at 98% list to sell price. So, I mean, there's hardly any negotiating going on unless we see distressed properties. And as far as Odessa, the numbers are no different over there. We've got 824 total listings, 531 active listings, and then 293 under contract, 153 sold last month. So that puts them about 5 months of inventory in Odessa. But I mean, they're trading right behind us, about 97% list to sell price and $259,000 average sale price. But I mean, I was a local realtor, and if you have any questions, especially Midland, I'm really focused in Midland. So if you have any questions about the real estate, or if you need comps pulled or anything like that, just let me know. I'm more happy to help. As I can tell, I'm really good at public speaking, and I'm so ready I could probably change my But it's nice to meet all of y'all, and thanks again, Lee, for having us out here.
So, thank you. Is the selling price up this month from last month?
We're up a couple thousand. It's not a crazy fluctuation, but yeah, it's just turning more into a seller's market.
We bought this in October 30th. In October, we bought it October 30th, and every month I've been watching the paper, it's gone up, the sales price, and that shocked me because of the way oil was and everything. I thought that, and everybody left, but they're still buying homes, so, it's a good thing. Where Odessa Midland is one of the lowest, we fell the most in the nation on rents. Now, I haven't really seen it at my things, but maybe, you know, if you self-manage, you talk to your people, you get them to like you, you treat them right, and maybe you can keep the rents the way they were, you know. I lost one person because of COVID, and got it re-rented pretty quickly, so.
Are those figures that are available on a website?
No, these are, I mean, I pulled these from Navica, like from our MLS.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Did you tell me who you work for?
Yeah, I work for Taylor Williams, so I have it.
Okay, so if we were curious about other cities, we'd just come talk to you or a local?
I mean, you really want a realtor from that city.
Mhm.
I mean, because yeah, I'm the local expert for Midland, and this is so close, but I focus on Midland because there's so much stuff going on. You know, it's such an active market that, I mean, it's hard to be an expert everywhere, so I just focus on in Midland.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll start out, this is James Palmer, and he actually came and worked on the barbecue area. And so I asked him if he'd tell us what he liked about working on it and what he didn't like working on it, and what he liked about working with Steve and I, and what he didn't like about working with Steve. You can't tell what he didn't like working with me.
Yeah, I guess I kind of started when, I think early on, I think when I started here.
Oh, wait, he's also our COVID advisor, because he works at the COVID ward over in Odessa.
Yeah, I'm a pharmacist at Medical Center. So I'm an ICU pharmacist, that's my critical care. So yeah, we've been going through COVID floors forever, but the numbers are down quite a bit. We don't have very many COVID patients in the ICU anymore. It used to be, we were overflowing patients. We went from a 40-bed ICU to like 70, we had like 55, I think, at the most patients. But doing better. The vaccine stuff, did you want me to say anything about that? Or
Yeah.
So Lee asked me just the other day if I'd say something about it, but I got the Moderna vaccine, I guess, early on with the healthcare workers, and so most of those vaccines, if just people just want to know, they're more emergency authorized. So I'm also on the research board for the hospital, and so when we have a therapy that has no alternatives and it's an emergency situation, the FDA can release it as an emergency authorization. So they still have to go through the study protocols and everything. There's like 10,000 patients in each vaccine group, you know. And with a 2-month window, they didn't see any glaring side effects. So it's an unimproved vaccine, but with the emergency authorization because it could save lives, so they released it. So that basically they're still kind of in the approval process as far as full, you know. So most of those, for the approval, they won't know because it's a long-term side effects, you know. The second shot, I looked pretty bad. My wife took pictures of me because she said that she thought the public needed to know. Because I was out at first I was like kind of cocky. I was like, I don't know why people are complaining about this, but like the next day, like 10 a.m., I was like putting my head down at work and like just trying to make it through the day, you know, just like chills and stuff. But after 24 hours, it wasn't bad. So that's the vaccine. And then I guess working here, I got to start kind of from the beginning. I remember doing demolition. The bathroom back there knocked out some sledgehammer stuff. We bunched of walls we ripped out. Basically it was kind of cool because we could, you know, hit anything, break anything. He was just like, why are you still in here working on this? Just start, you know, Steve was just ripping stuff out, you know. We kind of just, it was a lot of fun. So this had a whole wall across it, gone. So there's lots of things to learn. I think I worked with them on the barbecue area, but before that even, you know, texture on the walls, mud, we did that. There was doors put in, framing done. Pretty sure one of the framing jobs I did was ripped out again because we did it wrong, but you know, we were able to come in here and do different things, and they were real agreeable to show us what they knew. The flooring was kind of cool to do, the wood flooring. What else? We put cement was put down the old ventilation heating system on the floor and stuff. The sunroom area, all the sheetrock, everything, you know. So just a electrical. The whole kitchen area was we had just lights dangling from the ceiling and just, you know, trying to figure out which ones were live and different things. And that was all Steve, you know. So if you get a chance to ever work with them again on something like that, recommend it just to kind of see, you know, each part of the process, you know. We did the pavers out there in the barbecue area. We got to make concrete countertop for the fireplace, designing and putting in the process of getting a plumber to put in the natural gas line to feed the fireplace and the grill. And then they added electrical too for the fridge. Trying to think of what else. Just things like taking out the ceiling fans, you know, doing some of the electrical, putting in, you know, new outlets, new plugs, patching holes in the walls. I was thinking as like a, you know, landlord kind of thing. Someone makes a hole in the wall, how do I just fix that without having to make a big deal about it? And just kind of learning how you actually do that, some of the techniques. Steve, real knowledgeable about kind of how the texture make it look nice, and so no one notices it unless they shine a light on the side. But really, when you walk in, you can't even see it. Him can tell you that probably with his eyes, but you know. So anyway, there's a lot of really great things to learn. I appreciate these guys; they're great to learn from. They both have different strengths. Steve's, you know, got all this knowledge on the fix and flip side and everything. He's a great guy. And Lee has, just a book of knowledge. You know, always has a good book. Read his books. I'm always going back and forth with him with books, suggestions. So. But that's kind of what I learned. I appreciate the time getting to work with these guys. So thank y'all.
Well, we asked Robin to come, and he must have forgotten because he was gonna make it too. Robin actually worked here 2 months solid during the day because he had lost his job and he was doing drones for like a year, and that wasn't quite paying all the bills. So I said, well, if you want to come out here, you know. And then he got his old job back in December. Steve and I were in here one day, and it was freezing outside. And he'd already got this was after January, and we called him up. Man, Robin, it's so hot in here. We were just kidding, because what he does is go out to the sites and test chemicals and stuff. So we knew it was cold. But I didn't tell Robin when he quit. I told him, when he got the other job back, because I didn't want him thinking I did it for alternative motives, for my own selfish reasons. But I did tell him later on, I think that if he'd have stayed with real estate for a year, that by the end of the year, he'd have been making as much as he's making on the job he went back to. And I can't say that. He was making enough with us that he was putting money in the bank, with his wife working too. She works all the time. So it wasn't like she had to work or anything. It's just what she does. So he could afford to not go back and spend a whole year doing real estate. And the reason I went back and told him is because if he's still really interested in real estate, then that's still an option for him, is to do it. The thing I liked about working with Steve is, literally I knew nothing about any of this stuff when I got here. I didn't know. I was always afraid to work with electricity because I could never remember which one was the hot wire. And if I can't remember something like that, I don't need to mess with it, And I did just a little bit here one day, and after I worked with it, it's like I went home and I had lights up in the attic that had been there for 10 years, not hooked up. We always did an extension cord, I hooked it up, put a switch and everything. So my wife liked that. And just like James, doing the texture and all that stuff, I just learned so much while I was working here and stuff. And if you have a project like this and you do it on your own, you'll learn a lot just working and doing it. Bailey was saying that she just did a rental property. And I can tell you right now, I didn't ask her, but I know she learned so much just doing it, because you just learn stuff that you don't know, reading books and stuff. So I'm going to let Steve take it away. He'll tell you all the figures and all the neat things and bad things. I told him to tell you about the bad things because I don't want y'all to think that yes, prices have risen every year, every month, but they could have fallen every month. And, I think $399 is what we thought we could get when we started the project, and I'll let Steve take it.
Okay, now we're saying $4.99, okay, so, good difference. Okay, there's really, I can sit here and talk for hours, so I'm gonna try not to. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll go into some of the numbers here. First of all, I've always been interested in real estate from the time I was in my 20s and such, but it's not like I could jump on YouTube in 1980 something, Herbert, and find and learn some of this stuff. You know, so I never really did get involved in any of it. And, you know, I was in my mid-20s, and a buddy of mine, we'd drive around looking at stuff and didn't know what we were doing, and didn't know about real estate clubs and no internet to look at. So never really got involved in anything like that. Finally, it was after, you know, getting married, having kids and all that, and I was always interested, and I just kind of decided I was going to jump into this thing somehow. And one of my receptionists, her mother had passed away, and it was her and 3 siblings, so 4 kids, and they were trying to deal with this estate, and it was a real small, older house, at 985 square feet, 3-bed, 1-bath, in pretty bad shape over off Ruby and Thomaston, if you know the area, just south of Permian Estates. And ended up talking to him, didn't really have any money, didn't know about hard money, any of that type of stuff, so I bought him on a credit card. And I just had one of those courtesy checks on. I told her I'd give him $12,000, and they took it. So I wrote him a $12,000 American Express, whatever, MasterCard, courtesy card, and bought this house, and commenced to learning. And that was back before there was even Lowe's and Home Depot in Midland. There was a Builder Square where HEB is now, if y'all have been around long enough in Midland. And so I went and got some books, and I'd read these books, and I'll tell you what, the people that write these books, they've never flipped a house. I don't think they've ever done any contracting, but, you know, we muddled through it, and didn't know anything, but looking back and see the huge amount of mistakes, you know, and we were talking about this the other day, I mean, making a mistake after mistake, looking back, just things I could have done so much better. But at the end of the day, we ended up selling it. Even got some bad advice. Somebody thought it was a foreclosure and said, oh, you can't sell that in less than a year, it has to see it. We just got all kinds of bad advice too. But at the end of the day, we worked on it for about a year and made about $13,000. So I'm like, well, that turned out pretty good. I mean, you know, if I had gone to college to learn that same stuff, I'd have paid them $13,000. As it is, I got in and learned a lot of things, a lot of them the hard way, which, you know, you learn more the hard way than you do the easy way. You remember it there? Any of y'all athletes in sports growing up? You know, you learn more winning or losing. I always learned more losing, you know, and you do. It makes a bigger impact, but thankfully we didn't lose on that, but we made a lot of mistakes and learned from them and went on down the road. Ended up after that doing a couple little contract jobs for people because I enjoy doing a lot of this stuff. And got my second flip. It was another foreclosure. I've got several on foreclosures, and foreclosures, you know, go on HUD sites or things of that nature. I found on a HUD site, and it's one of those, I saw it at 9 o'clock, looked at it at 10, had an offer in at 11, got it by, you know, 2 o'clock, and you had to move pretty fast, and I got it, that one for about $27,000, and ended up fixing it. I was going to flip it, but my son ended up getting married, so I rented it, and I rented it to he and his wife, and kept it for another couple of years, and sold it for about $105 later on, and that one worked out real well. That deal was great because back then, this was about 15 years ago, they did bridge loans. The banks would do bridge loans, so I just got a bridge loan with the bank, and end of the day, you know, I closed on this deal, I got draws from my repairs, did it all, and when I was all done, I refinanced it, and that whole house cost me $34. So I like that deal too. And then I just refinanced it at the end and rolled all that stuff in. I refinanced it for about, I don't know, $37,000 and stuck it right in there. And by the time I ended up selling it, I was renting it for about $1,000 a month. And the note was $380 or something. So that one worked out real well too. But I've done a number since then. I've done probably a lot more contracting, but I have some rental properties that I'll buy and fix. Most of them have been distressed. 2 of them have been foreclosures. Really 3, because one was a duplex. fix them up and stick a renter in there. Of course, it's a different quality of repair on a rental versus a flip. You know, I'm not gonna put in quartzite like that and high-end $4,000 range and some of the things I've done in the bathroom. You know, you're gonna do more contractor grade, maybe a nice formica, possibly a stone countertop, you know, things like that. But if none of y'all have really explored rental properties except passing, I would encourage you to look at rental properties seriously. Even if you're interested in flipping it, use your flip money to buy rental properties. You cannot beat the return on rental properties. And the way that the financial literacy of people these days is so poor that it's going to drive the rental property market for a long time, because people don't know how to handle money. They're not going to get financing, and it's just outrageous. But you know, right now you could find, you might wholesale a deal. You know, Samuel does some wholesaling and some flips and things like that. I'll get some of your listings sometimes. I think you have one for $237 right now.
We're, I guess, what
Is
are,
that the one?
we had listed for 248.
Okay.
But we dropped it down to 225.
Okay, I don't know if that's the one I'm thinking of. I got it again today, but you know, you look at it, and if you could get something, say around $200,000, and it costs you $50 to fix it up, and you roll most of it in, you get a note for $250. Your note might be around $1,500. You could rent that thing for, well, when the market was stronger, probably $2,500 a month. You make $1,000 a month. You know, making 12,000, 12 and a half is easy math. 12 and a half at 50,000, 25%. You're not going to get 25% on your money in the market. You'll put it in a mutual fund or a Roth IRA or an Alphabet or an Apple. You're not going to get 25%. And that's just your cash flow. That's not counting, you get to write off your property taxes, your insurance, your utilities, to do your depreciation schedule, you know, write all those things off. And historically, nationwide, real estate appreciates about 4% per annual average. You know, it's higher some areas, lower some areas, but across the board nationwide, say another 4%. So counting that in your tax write-offs, you're gonna get 30-35% on anything. You know, it's just not gonna happen. And I've told my two younger kids are in their 20s now, and I told them, if you don't want to do what I'm doing, that's fine. I don't care, but at least do this. When you're young, I'll help you find a house we can fix up, and you can stick a renter in there. If you can make $500 a month net, spend your first 6 months to a year putting that money back, socking it away, and then just put $500 a month in a Roth IRA and ignore it. Don't ever do another flip house. Don't ever do a rental house. Go on your merry way, get your job, do your 40, retire. And you know what you're going to have in 40 years from putting $500 a month? Because one thing for sure, your rent's not going to be $500 a month 5 years from now, net, and 15 years from now, and 20 years from now, but your note's always going to stay pretty consistent with the exception of property taxes and insurance, and you're going to retire with $3 million. One property. You know? So, long way around it. Now let's get back to this one. So, long and short of it, like Lee had said, he's helped me on a couple properties in the past. He knew I was doing some things, and he'd come over and we'd talk, and he'd help me out a little bit. And over the years, we talked about wanting to do something. And so he has a landscaping business, so he's always driving around. And you know, y'all have heard driving for dollars, probably. Where sometimes you just see distressed neighbors, distressed properties, and you put an offer out or put a feeler out or a postcard or something of that nature. And Lee had been driving by this area for really years, right? He has several contracts in the area with his landscaping business. And he's always noticed it because he said he'd drive by the alley and the garage door is broken and is hanging halfway down and it's just full of clutter and junk. And how do you say you finally ended up hearing about it? From the neighbor that he did work with up the street. Found out that it had been a hoarder house, okay? The lady was a widowed lady. She was 94 years old and been here by herself. Her niece would take care of her, well, check in on her, bring her groceries, check in on her, but she would never let her in the door. she just dropped groceries at the front door. And, you know, she could kind of see in and see that it was, you know, didn't look too good, but she didn't know how rough it really was. And anyway, it had gone a couple days, she hadn't heard from her, and hadn't been able to get in touch with her, so she came over to check things out, and couldn't get an answer, so they came in, and they found her, and she was in pretty rough shape. She was dehydrated and malnourished, and she was shocked when she came in and saw it. But they got her to into the hospital and got
94 years old.
94 years old, yeah, and have been here with no electricity and no running water for the last year, okay? It was things to the roof. They had a clean out crew come, and it took 4 people 10 days to clear it. One guy was working in a garage, and he worked for 2 days and he found a car, okay? So it was really bad, okay? So thankfully, well, I don't know about thankfully, it cost them $30,000 to clear this out. I said, I wish you'd have told us, I'd have cleaned it out for $30,000. But the good thing was, when we came in to first start looking at it, it had already been cleared out. It was down to concrete, and it was empty. Didn't smell too great, didn't look too great still. It was rough. You know, there was stuff, you know, you might see mouse crap on the wall here. You know, how to get up there? Well, I tell you how I got there, because there was stuff this high. Lee has some pictures, I don't know if he brought them with him, but it was pretty bad. So we negotiated with the niece, who was the, not really executor, because it wasn't a state, but she did have a power of attorney to help negotiate things. And we really got a deal that you just don't really get. First of all, you know, the way you work the numbers, and I know you said you kind of like hearing numbers, okay? Whenever you are doing this, you have always got to start at the end and work your way backwards, okay? Some of y'all may know this. If you don't, if you do, bear with me. If you don't, listen up. You never find a deal and you say, oh man, I wonder how much I could get that house for. Your process is not that. Your process is, let's look at some comps. Let's figure out what your ARV, your after rehab value is going to be. Okay, you get a 2,000 square foot house, and properties in that neighborhood are going for, it's a nice neighborhood, their ARV, if they're in good shape, is $150 a square foot. Well, you know, you got a $300,000 house. Okay, how much is it going to take to get it to be a $300,000 house? Well, it's probably going to take about, you know, $60,000 to get it to be a $100,000 house. Well, that means realtor's fees at $300, my closing costs are going to be backing me out 30 grand on that. I'm going to be 60 grand on my rehab. I want to make 40 grand. What's my price point to offer? Okay, so you just work backwards, and then you know your ask, okay, or your negotiating point, what you're going to offer. On this one, after looking at it and realizing it hadn't been touched, the hot water heater, water softener, all that stuff, you know, it was just a cylinder of rust out there. You knew it didn't work. You know, you knew the floors were garbage. The roof was an original shaker roof. The house was built in 86. If you walked around the attic on a daylight, it looked like a starry night. You know, there's just holes everywhere. It's an original shaker roof. The HVAC original. So a lot of times when I'm looking at doing a flip house, I always know I'm going to do the kitchen. I know I'm going to do the flooring. I know I'm going to paint and maybe do some texture. I know I'm going to get popcorn off. I know I'm probably going to do the bathrooms. You know, there's certain things I know I'm going to do. So when I go in, and you may have a similar process, you know you're going to do a lot of those type things pretty much every time. But you don't always know you're going to do a roof. You don't always know you're going to do HVAC. Those are kind of, pay attention. They can kill you. I mean, those are big hits. So, but we knew going in, we'd have to do both these and this. So working backwards at that point in time, before the market had gone up the way it's gone in the last 7 months, it looked like our number was going to be about a 180 to 185 offer. Looking at a 399 purchase or sell price at the end. And we thought our going in, our target was to make about 60 and hope for 80. And those numbers were pretty reasonable. But we ended up, Lee did more than negotiating. Of course, I am the contractor, I do a lot of this stuff, so I'm the one walking through, ooh, this is terrible. You know, but Cynthia, she knew it was bad, and so I wasn't really, I don't do that, you know, just try to really beat them up and make them think like, oh, you're sitting on the biggest turd in Midland, and I can't offer you more than, you know, $20 a square foot. I mean, you know, you can do some of that, but you can have a little bit of integrity about it, and she knew it was in bad shape. But long and short of it, after I had talked to her and told her kind of what it looked like we were going to be in for we were going to be in big on this one. There was going to be big dollars to be invested. She knew it. And after that point, I turned it over to Lee, and he knew it, negotiating it. And we knew that if we had to do hard money, the carrying costs, everybody know what hard money is? If you do, don't, you know, it's higher interest money, but they really don't look at your credit score and all those type things. They look at the deal. If the deal makes sense, they'll give you the money. Maybe 8, 10, 14%, they're going to give it to you, but you're paying a interest-only payment all the time. Some they will also roll in your rehab costs if you desire to. I had just sold a couple of deals, so I have the money in the bank to carry the rehab. But of course, nobody wants to make your monthly payments. You know, you got your insurance, your tax, utilities, and your interest only. If you roll it in, you know, your carrying costs could be $3 grand a month on a house like this. You know, that's probably pretty reasonable, don't you think? A house this size, interest only, plus your rehab, probably be in that 25 to 3,000, because insurance, I mean, the property tax alone, 500 a month, out here. So, so he starts talking to her, and Lee is really good about creative finance, and he knows about, you know, corporation and books, and he listens to business books all the time. So if you ever have any questions about things like that, ask him. He can probably let you know or refer you to a book. But he loves negotiation, and a lot of the books he reads are negotiation type books. And so he starts talking to her and said, well, if you can carry the note, we'd save probably about $15,000 in hard money numbers, so we could offer you a little bit more. If you can't, then we're going to have to offer you less. And so he ends up negotiating it at 165, okay? And that's a great price point, okay? But the really great thing about it was 0% interest, and they don't get paid until we sell it. And like, you know, I mean, that just doesn't happen, okay? So kudos for they liked him, okay? You know, he read those books and got her where they liked him. He did a great negotiation. She didn't think it was all that unreasonable considering the condition it was in. And our carrying costs are utilities and insurance and some taxes. No payments, you know? So that's been a real, it's been real nice considering that we do it on our own. And because Robin was here, we were counting on him being our full-time person. He was pretty sharp, and he picked up things fast. We probably would have been done this thing in February, March. But when he got his job back, it's like, oh crap, man, I'm going to be working on this thing for 6 months because I have a full-time job and I have real properties I have to take care of and things like that. But, you know, it's definitely worth in our favor because prices have gone up, and a lot of it's because of lumber prices and things of that nature. You know, a lot of the materials prices have gone up, but all said and done, when I look at, I do a spreadsheet on everything, and we are in about 120, okay? That counts some labor. We did have a couple months with Robin, and we had a month or so with another guy, Pete, so we had some labor in there. We, of course, utilities and all that, but, you know, the lion's share, probably close to 100 is materials. And, you know, we didn't skimp on materials. We got higher end stuff in here. You know, we did the cafe range and the cafe dishwasher that's coming, and the nice cabinets and the quartzites, and you know, the manufactured, you know, the real wood floors and a lot of those things. So, but we really changed up the footprint and you know, made it more modern. You know, we did, like you said, we did our colors that you see on TV. You know, the grays and the whites and the grays. That's what's still selling.
It's the trend these days. It's the trend these days.
It really is. You know, you're starting to see a little bit more color now, but Midland's always 10 years behind. It really is. I mean, when I moved out here, there wasn't an ATM, I couldn't believe it. And it was 10 years before there was. But they're still trending with the whites, the grays, and the grayish. So I think we're still, still on trend, and I always like doing one or two little extra things you don't really see. Maybe the standalone tub, the little saloon rail there. It's just a couple things you don't see in typical houses, so it just sets it apart. But that's our story. We're hoping to be on the market here in the next few weeks. Just need to get mostly baseboards, some crown molding, a lot of little finishing type things. But that's what we're looking at. So, questions?
How did you pick out the tops, or how did you design this? Or where'd you get all your ideas from? Maybe you lost them, I don't know.
Well, 15 years of HGTV and DIY network. No, really, I mean, that really is true.
This
For
one's in
to a large degree.
your house, right? Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
just,
which one needed that?
I can't remember how, I think I saw a YouTube video.
Oh, but I meant you did it also at y'all's place, right?
Yeah, I did it in my
Yeah,
house
yeah.
too. That really is it. Now, when I was in high school, I took architectural drafting, and that was my major in college. I was going to be an architect. But after about 3 years of that, between high school and college, I thought, I just don't want to sit in front of a computer for the next 4 years. Or at that time, it wasn't a computer. But I didn't want to sit in front of a drafting table for the next 40 years, so I ended up not continuing that. Looking back, I probably should have, because I've always been so interested in it. My wife is a teacher, had been for many years, not teaching now, but she had been in college and was going to be an interior designer. Ended up being a teacher, but so she didn't follow